Hello, and welcome to Henry George Daily Devotional, episode 69, book 7. We've made it to chapter 2, the enslavement of laborers and the enslavement of laborers, the ultimate result of private property in, you guessed it, land. Um, oh no, all of the last 3 episodes have had the wrong chapter number. This is chapter 2. Anyway, I didn't see what just popped up on the screen there. I have a new headset, or a friend gave me their old headset. So I'm hoping the volume levels are okay. I'm looking at them. Maybe they get too loud. I don't know. Because I know I get loud when I read Henry George. If chattel slavery be unjust, then is private property in land unjust. For let circumstances be what they may, the ownership of land will always give the ownership of men, to a degree measured by the necessity real or artificial, for the use of land. This is but a statement in different form of the law of rent. And when that necessity is absolute, when starvation is the alternative to the use of land, then does the ownership of men involved in the ownership of land become absolute. Place 100 men on an island from which there is no escape, and whether you make one of these men the absolute owner of the other 99, or the absolute owner of the soil of the island, will make no difference either to him or to them. Yeah, I feel like the Georgist arguments are just so rock solid when you look at a very simple society. And then I feel like the burden of proof has to be on people opposed to Georgism to be like, why does this not hold anymore for a more complex society? I've been persuaded that it has. Um, anyway. In the one case as the other, the one will be the absolute master of the 99. Whether or not the one case was if he owns them in a form of chattel slavery, and in the other case he owns the land, the soil. In the one case as the other, the one will be the absolute master of the 99, his power extending even to life and death, for simply to refuse them permission to live upon the island would be to force them into the sea. Upon a larger scale and through more complex relations, the same cause must operate in the same way to the same end, the ultimate result, the enslavement of laborers becoming apparent just as the pressure increases, which compels them to live on and from land which is treated as the exclusive property of others. Take a country in which the soil is divided among a number of proprietors, instead of being in the hands of one, and in which, as in modern production, the capitalist has been specialized from the laborer, and manufactures and exchange in all their many branches have been separated from agriculture. Though less direct and obvious, the relations between the owners of the soil and the laborers will, with increase of population and the improvement of the arts, tend to the same absolute mastery on the one hand and the same abject helplessness on the other, as in the case of the island we have supposed. Yes. He's claiming that the island exemplifies all we need to know about how land gives you mastery over humans. I am hearing some just sort of static in my headset. I wonder if you guys are too, but we'll find out. Rent will advance while wages will fall. Of the aggregate produce, the landowner will get a constantly increasing. the laborer a constantly diminishing share. Just as removal to cheaper land becomes difficult or impossible, laborers, no matter what they produce, will be reduced to a bare living, and the free competition among them, where land is monopolized, will force them to a condition which, though they may be mocked with the titles and insignia of freedom, will be virtually that of slavery. Yeah. There is nothing strange in the fact that, in spite of the enormous increase in productive power which this country has witnessed and which is still going on, the wages of labor in the lower and wider strata of industry should everywhere tend to the wages of slavery, just enough to keep the laborer in working condition. Side note. Yesterday, I went to Knott's Berry Farm, a regional amusement park, and as I was biking towards the entrance, I passed by a man, shirtless, covered in tattoos, very muscular, including like a Nazi swastika. And it just made me think about how many shredded bums I've seen and how hard it is to become shredded. Of course, I'm referring to shredded meaning like super muscular, low body fat. What men in America, idealize about being a real buff guy. And then that made me think about when I went on mission trips to Mexico in like junior high and high school with my church, and working with my church to build a concrete block houses in Mexico for the poor there. And we would work with a church down there in San Felipe, Mexico. And some of the men I just remember one guy from their church would help us. And we all thought we were high schoolers, sure. So we didn't have a great perspective, but we thought he was like incredible at like how fast and efficient and tirelessly he would work. And so I just was reflecting on these poor people who are capable of very hard work. And I saw that like white power Nazi guy in all his muscles walking by Knott's Berry Farm, which is crazy because there's like all these like families and kids and stuff. It's kind of scary, I guess. And it's just like, man, I bet it's like too bad that guy, like, it's like get him a job. Like, I don't know. Like, he obviously is in some ways capable of working very hard to get what he wants. But I don't think he's gotten all that he wants out of life. I don't know. And then, I don't know. All right, back to George. For the ownership of the land on which and from which a man must live is virtually the ownership of the man himself. And in acknowledging the right of some individuals to the exclusive use and enjoyment of the earth, we condemn other individuals to slavery as fully and as completely as though we had formerly made them chattels. I also passed by a man in a like Bobcat, there was like road construction on the side of the road. And I guess it was around lunchtime, so I don't know if he's on his lunch break, but he was just sort of chilling there. And it does remind me of I've always sort of noted that a lot of times you drive past construction sites and people are sort of on break. And the nature of hourly wages being sort of you're not really incentivized to actually get the work done, and the idea that due to private property and landowners are basically able to force the non-landowning class to work for like at a subsistence wage. Whereas if you were to give them like ownership in a company, then, well, they would be making a lot more, but then their incentives would be aligned to work harder. So it's like, if your options are, you can have 10 slave wage workers who work for, pennies, um, but they're equivalent to like, we'll say like, I don't know, five workers that were motivated. Yet if you have to pay those motivated workers, or give some kind of equity to them, it's better to then hire 10 who are going to be not incentivized to work hard. And then somewhere in this text, Progress and Poverty, I don't think we've gotten there yet, George says that he believes that most labor will structure itself in the form of co-ops in a free society that has a land value tax. I don't know, these are all just the things that go through my head when I'm biking around. George continues, and we will not finish this chapter. In a simpler form of society where production chiefly consists in the direct application of labor to the soil, the slavery that is the necessary result of, according to some, the exclusive right to the soil from which all must live is plainly seen in helotism, in villanage, and serfdom. What? In a simpler form of society where production chiefly consists in the direct application of labor to the soil, the slavery that is the necessary result of, according to some, the exclusive right to the soil from which all must live, is plainly seen in helotism, villanage, and in serfdom. I think that this, according to some, could be a clause set off by commas. I'm assuming helotism and villanage are just very similar to serfdom. Oh, helotism, helos would be the sun. A symbiotic relation of plants and animals in which one functions as the slave of the other. Oh. Helotism, economics. Interesting. It is mostly a biological term. Villanage, tenure or status of a villain. A villain is a class of serf tied to the land under the feudal system. I wonder, is this where does villain come from villain? Yeah, I guess so. Villain, a rustic boy, yeah. Yes, people who are in great poverty tend to start committing what we call crime, and in some cases I agree it is crime. Well, theft of private property is crime. It would be very tough to actually steal land. You have to start a rebellion for that. Chattel slavery originated in the capture of prisoners in war, and though it has existed in some extent in every part of the globe, its area has been small, its effects trivial, as compared with the forms of slavery which have originated in the appropriation of land. No people as a mass have ever been reduced to chattel slavery to men of their own race, nor yet on any large scale has any people ever been reduced to slavery of this kind by conquest. The general subjection of the many to the few, which we meet with wherever society has reached a certain development, has resulted from the appropriation of land as individual property. It is the ownership of the soil that gives everywhere. It is the ownership of the soil that everywhere gives, the ownership of the men that live upon it. It is slavery of this kind to which the enduring pyramids and the colossal monuments of Egypt yet bear witness. Oh shit. and of the institutions of which we have perhaps a vague tradition in the biblical story of the famine during which the Pharaoh purchased up the lands of the people. It was slavery of this kind to which, in the twilight of history, the conquerors of Greece reduced the original inhabitants of that peninsula, transforming them into helots by making them pay rent for their lands. It was the growth of the latifundia, or great landed estates, which transmuted the population of ancient Italy from a race of hardy husbandmen whose robust virtues conquered the world into a race of cringing bondsmen. It's interesting that George would here call these robust virtues conquered the world. I wonder what he means exactly, because he definitely doesn't like war. It was the appropriation of the land as the absolute property of their chieftains which gradually turned the descendants of free and equal Gaelic, Teutonic, and Hunnish warriors into coloni and villains, and which changed the independent burghers of Slavonic village communities into the boors of Russia and the serfs of Poland, which instituted the feudalism of China and Japan, as well as that of Europe, and which made the high chiefs of Polynesia the all but absolute masters of their fellows. How it came to pass that the Aryan shepherds and warriors, who, as comparative philology tells us, descended from the common birthplace of the Indo-Germanic race into the lowlands of India, were turned into the suppliant and cringing Hindu. The Sanskrit verse which I have long before quoted gives us a hint. I think that's the white, is it the elephants and white, dang. We'll come lowlands of India, but we want to find, yeah, the white parasols. Oh, I should have just read the next sentence. The white parasols and the elephants mad with pride of the Indian Raja are the flowers of grants of land. And could we find the key? Where's the? I guess that might have been loud. I don't know. Can't find the thing I've searched for. And could we find the key to the records of the long-buried civilizations that lie entombed in the gigantic ruins of Yucatan and Guatemala, telling at once of the pride of a ruling class and the unrequited toil to which the masses were condemned, we should read in all human probability of a slavery imposed upon the great body of the people through the appropriation of the land as the property of a few. Of another illustration of the universal truth that they who possess the land are masters of the men who dwell upon it. The necessary relation between labor and land, the absolute power which the ownership of land gives over men who cannot live but by using it, explains what is otherwise inexplicable. The growth and persistence of institutions, manners, and ideas so utterly repugnant to the natural sense of liberty and equality. Yeah, I'm going to end it there today. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Tell everyone you know. Private property and land is unjust.